Nichol here for Simon Says Stamp, and I'm super excited to share my sparkly masked and layered heat embossed card with you today, featuring the December 2018 card kit. I am using the Christmas Cheer 6x8 stamp set from the kit for my card today. I've got some Nina smooth white cardstock here. This is A2 sized, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And we're going to start by masking the adorable Santa image and then the sign pole that goes behind it. So anything in the forefront of the card, so in this case it's going to be Santa's list that's flying out there, that needs to be in the front, so it needs to be stamped first. I'm going to stamp that with Hero Arts Intense Black ink. And then I'm going to stamp this again. I don't re-ink my stamp because I feel like it's a lot of ink on that masking paper. I just stamp it with whatever is left on the stamp. And then I'm going to cut this out with my scissors. Now for this image, there are a couple of little areas that are kind of delicate down near the bottom and then the pom-pom on the hat. So just be a little bit careful when creating your mask with this. This is the Simon Says Stamp masking paper. This is my favorite masking paper for masking any type of card or stamped image for a card or whatever project it might be. It is fantastic. I'm going to cut around this, and then that area between his 2 feet, that needs to not have a mask. I guess it wouldn't matter. You could leave it if you wanted to for a little bit more stability, but I'm just going to trim along that line and cut that little triangle area out so that I can add a little bit of background ink when I get to that here in a second. Because your mask can be stuck together, you can easily just cut it along one of the lines there. Trim that little piece out, and then when you place the mask over the image, which you'll see me do here in just a second, you can kind of gently put it back together. I like to peel it off in one of the larger areas of the design instead of one of the delicate areas so that I hopefully don't tear my mask. But even if you do, you generally can kind of piece it back together on your project. So there, I'm going to place my mask down. Then I can clean my stamp really good. Go ahead and get that off of my MISTI, and then I'm ready to add the sign pole. I love this little image. If you didn't want to do a sign pole, there's also a fantastic Christmas tree in the stamp set that I think would be cute as well. So you can use whichever image you like. Going to have it a little bit at an angle, and I want that bottom line to slightly overlap down below that little kind of oval patch. I'm making it ice. I don't know what it is exactly. There by the sign pole, I want that to overlap so that it's a continuous line from the sign pole kind of down back behind that little icy patch. Again, after I've stamped the image, I am going to stamp this on my masking paper and then cut this out. This one's pretty straightforward. It's a lot of straight lines for the most part, and I'm simply going to trim this one out then and attach it right over. When I'm doing any of the straight line mask cutting like this, I'll generally kind of just go in. I don't usually go all the way around. I guess I did a little bit here. But I end up trimming out a lot of little pieces, as many straight cuts as I can do, if that makes sense. Now once we get this masked, this is the perfect time to add some background. So an easy way to add ink on the background of this is with Distress inks or Distress oxides. I'm going to be using Distress inks today. Even though this is Nina's smooth white cardstock, I'm going to try to use kind of a lighter hand when I first start applying the ink, and I'm just going to blend and blend until I get that seamless look I'm going for that slightly lightens as you get towards the bottom of the design. I sort of wanted it to look like blue sky melting into the snow-covered ground. There are my masked images. I'm going to start with Mermaid Lagoon, and I'm going to apply this all over. And it's a little bit messy. You can see at first there's some foam marks. It doesn't look great. Where I go around the mask, I'm going to be a little bit more gentle, especially at first. I don't want that to roll up. I'm doing more of a pounce kind of over that until that ink builds up and it moves a little bit better. I always go with my light color, and then we're going to blend in the darker color, the chipped sapphire, up towards the top and down the sides. And I'm going to go back and forth between these two colors, building up the intensity of the sky, and again keeping it light down towards the bottom. I don't want to bring the blue down too far because I do want it to be kind of grounded where it looks like there's snow along the bottom edge. Once the ink is applied, I can remove my masks and start coloring. I always love removing the masked images. I used to color and then mask and then do my inking, and I realized if there was any mistake at all, I had wasted all my time coloring. Or I guess not wasted, but I would have to redo all of that. So I have kind of changed how I do that. I generally stamp, mask, do any inking, background work I want to do, and then I peel up my masks and color. At that point, I haven't spent tons of time coloring, so if I have to redo anything, it's pretty easy to do. I'm using our 37, 39, and 89 for any of the red areas on the card. I love this little, I kind of call him the roly-poly Santa. He's kind of short and squat, and he's so cute. I love his little mouth open, holding that long list. He's just super, super fun. The sign pole is even more fun as it can be customized with any number of sentiments from that awesome Christmas cheer stamp set. So it can actually read lots of different greetings just depending on what you like. Some light warm grays for any areas on my Santa that are going to be white or kind of grayish white. Cool grays for his boots and his belt. Let's go back to our warm grays for the brim of his hat, the pom-pom, his mittens. I'm actually going to be covering up the pom-pom and brim of his hat, but we'll do that in a little bit when we get to the embellishing part of this card design. I wanted to pull in another color into this card. It's got a lot of blue in the background and then the reds and whites, of course. So I went with greens for the Christmas list because this is a prominent image on my card and I felt like I just needed a pop of color somewhere. I'm using G82, 29, and 46 for this, and I really like how this turned out. Normally, I think I would have gone for like some tans, very, very light tans or browns, neutrals for this, but I think this pop of color works especially well for this card. And again, we just want to blend, get rid of any harsh lines we have here. And there is his cute little list. I'm going to take a white pen now and customize the list so it looks like names have been written on it. And that's just going to dress up the design even more and add a really fun finishing detail. Let's move back to our reds and start coloring in the candy cane pole. Our 37, 39, and 89, the same colors I used for Santa's outfit and for his mouth. And I'm still playing around with my main greeting, deciding where I want that to go. I thought it was perfect to use making a list, checking it twice for this card, since it looks like that is what Santa's doing. For the white areas on my sign pole, I'm using my warm grays again and just very, very lightly adding in some color. I'm going to add some little highlight areas with my white pen now, kind of around Santa's hat, his outfit, the list itself. We're going to add some little highlights. I know we added squiggles for names, but I'm going to add some of those highlights in. White dots for Santa's little pink cheek, Some highlights on the sign pole. I'm going to move some of these markers out of the way now. And I've kind of reached a point, I still have some coloring to do, but at this point I wasn't exactly sure what color I wanted to use for my signs. So I decided to go ahead, stamp my sentiment. I stamped that with the Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, and I'm heat embossing with Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder. I love how the white pops against these blue backgrounds. I think it's really, really pretty, and it's going to look fantastic with the snowflakes we're going to add from the Christmas Cheer stamp set. This is where the layered heat embossing comes in. We're going to take snowflakes from the same stamp set as Santa and the sign pole and the greeting, and we are going to stamp snowflakes in Versamark ink. And we're going to alternate between Hero Art's sparkle embossing powder and Simon Says Stamp white embossing powder to do some layered sparkly snowflakes. The white actually isn't sparkly, but the sparkle embossing powder is, and then we're going to even add in some Nuvo crystal drops and white blizzard. We're going to add in some glitters and things, so this is going to be a pretty sparkly card. When I think of holidays, I generally think of some glitter and stuff, so this is a great little project for that. Now, anything that is heat embossed with the sparkle embossing powder, it actually kind of looks like it's been embossed with clear embossing powder, because it is. There's just sparkle in this embossing powder, which when you kind of tilt the paper at an angle, you see the sparkle in it, and I think it's so perfect for snowflakes or anything kind of with that icy feel to it. I'm going to lay out my next group of snowflakes. I like to do a few at a time. Helps make the stamping go just a little bit faster. And I'm just playing around with the different groups of snowflakes, seeing what's going to look the best. That little guy, I have such a hard time getting him to stay put. I'll use like the tip of my scissors or a stylus or something to kind of push it and hold it down in place so it doesn't move when I move my fingers. Now I'm sprinkling on white embossing powder for this next layer. Any little flakes that maybe get where they don't belong, I'm going to take a dry paintbrush and remove those, and then heat emboss this next layer of snowflakes. And I turn my paper quite a few times, whatever makes it work the best for adding in all these layers. Clean my stamps, move those, and then let's add in the rest. Probably just have a couple more times stamping this. So adding in all of my little snowflakes. I like to fill in little areas with the little snowflakes for nice variety. So there's lots of different sizes here. Sparkle embossing powder for these. Tap off any of that excess and then heat emboss this next layer. And let's add in a few more white now to kind of round it all out. The Misty makes this so easy to be able to stamp multiple snowflakes with one press. And now it's time for white again. This is really such a fun technique. I love how the layered snowflakes look. And I love the border it provides for this sweet little scene card. I'm using my paintbrush again to get rid of some little stray flakes, and then using my heat tool to heat emboss these snowflakes. So we have just a little bit more coloring and embellishing to do. Might fill in with a couple more snowflakes. If there's any little open areas along the top, I generally like that whole top and kind of just starting down the sides to be completely filled in. So I went ahead and filled in these two little areas with some more of the sparkle embossing powder. I felt like it needed a little bit more. And it just kind of frames up that sentiment and the scene really, really nicely. I'm going to color in my signs with browns. I'm using E40, 43, 44, and 47. Or actually 43, 44, and 47, pardon me. And once these are colored, I can take this back to my MISTI and stamp the sentiments that customize the sign pull. Now in the Christmas cheer stamp set, there are lots of sentiments, and you can make this say lots of different things, which I think is really, really fun. Mine is going to say "This way to Santa's workshop." I thought that worked with my main sentiment on my card and really finished off my scene nicely. And I want that little patch that I mentioned earlier to be kind of an icy little patch. I'm going to just take some very, very light blue greens and color that in to give it an icy finish. And we'll finish with some sparkle here in a second. Now these little phrases are pretty small and they kept sticking to my fingers, so I'm just using the tip of my scissors to help kind of position them and hold them where they go. And that little "to" is so teeny tiny. And I didn't think they were lined up great, so I went ahead and relined those up. Stamped those with the clear ink, embossing ink again, sprinkled on white embossing powder, and then I'm going to heat set that. The white shows up super nice on the brown coloring and coordinates with the rest of the design really nicely. Time to add some finishing touches. We're going to take Nuvo crystal drops in White Blizzard. This is going to give a sparkly finish to that little icy area that Santa's standing on. I originally thought I'd use the Marvy Snow Marker for the brim of the hat and the pom-pom, and I ended up not liking it. I use it a lot for this kind of thing, and it just wasn't working. So I'm actually just going to kind of take some tweezers and pull up that, and I'm going to cover that with some glossy accents or another liquid adhesive, and I'm going to sprinkle on some Lawn Fawn chunky glitter instead. I really wanted this card to have more sparkle factor to it, and the chunky glitter is a great glitter for this kind of thing, and I love how it really makes the brim of the hat and the pom-pom sparkle and shine. We're going to take our white pen and make sure and fill in any little highlight areas on the sign, since we had already done the highlighting for the rest of the image and I hadn't colored that yet, so I went ahead and added that. Adding glossy accents to the sign pole. Adding Nuvo crystal drops in gloss white throughout the design to kind of fill in and give it even more of that falling snow type feel. We'll add some drops in White Blizzard as well for some sparkly little drops throughout. Take the sparkly drops to the center of some of the stamped snowflake designs as well for added glitz and glimmer. This card is all about the glitter. Now, my glossy accents has dried on the sign pole, and so I'm going to go ahead and take some more and add just some little areas on Santa's beard, on his list, on the signs themselves, and I'm sprinkling on Lawn Fawn Prisma glitter, which is not chunky, obviously. The other glitter is chunky, so it's these really big pieces. This is very, very fine glitter, and I think it creates a great little, what I call a dusting of snow. So it adds some sparkle, but doesn't overpower or overwhelm. And we'll let all of this sit and dry. We'll add this panel to a white top fold card base and this sparkly masked and layered heat embossing card featuring the Simon Says Stamp December 2018 card kit is all finished. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this fun holiday card. Please be sure to visit the Simon Says Stamp blog for more information. Thanks for watching.